Today, I want to take a look at a ship that won't be available until next week, Monday, March 2nd. The Tier 7 Premium Light Dutch Cruiser Vrijheid, which hopefully I'm not butchering the pronunciation of the name. Apparently, it means freedom or liberty in Dutch. And this ship is certainly capable of dispensing a lot of freedom and liberty, the same way that, you might imagine American bombers dropping bombs. It's a bit of a ridiculous light Dutch cruiser, and we'll talk about why, but I should probably explain at least what I know right now about how you obtain the thing. It's probably going to be prohibitively expensive. The patch notes refer to it only in one paragraph, lacking a lot of detail. From March 2nd to the 30th, set sail for adventures inspired by European sea legends of the 15th through 17th centuries. Check the store for themed content and a chance to step aboard the new ships available from the Spirit of Discovery Random Bundle. Tier 7 Premium Cruiser Numancia, which we'll have to cover at some other point, and then this thing, Dutch Premium Tier 7 Cruiser Vrijheid. In order to obtain the thing, you're going to have to get it out of random bundles, which means I think you're going to be subject to the whims of RNGesus. You may get lucky and you may get it. You may get unlucky and get the Numancia when you wanted this thing, or you could theoretically get neither. No idea how much it would cost to guarantee that you get the ship, but I'm going to assume it will cost a lot of money. If you should happen to obtain it, this thing is absurd. As you can see, it is a Dutch cruiser with airstrikes that also comes equipped with the smokescreen consumable, allowing you to do this. We're firing at the other Dutch cruiser out there with the light cruiser main battery guns, dealing a little damage there. And then as this key pushes in, we're able to drop him with the airstrikes. So let's start our coverage of the specs by talking about those, because they seem perfectly fine. These are two airstrikes that you've got. They reload in 52.4 seconds, and keep in mind, I think a lot of this will be influenced by my commander build. I'm running Johann Furstner. I'll show you the build and the mod selection once there's a lull here in the gameplay, but we're going to be doing a lot of damage to this key as he pushes in with the airstrikes and with the main battery guns here. Anyway, 52.4 second reload on the two airstrikes. They're practically available whenever you want them. And if you use the special legendary skill on Furstner or Dorman, I'm not sure if the new pirate commander has it, but the one that reduces the airstrike reload time to 1 second if you're within like 8 kilometers of a ship, well, that certainly helps too. And when these airstrikes go out, they only have a relatively short range of 10.9 kilometers, and I think that's buffed by one of Furstner's skills on his skill tree. Might be more like a base range of 10 km, so perhaps not that long. But there's 6 planes in each airstrike, and each one of them drops 5 bombs for a total of 30 bombs. They do 6,300 maximum HE damage, and they have a 38% fire chance with 36.5 millimeters of armor pen. So they hurt. They're fairly similar to sort of the lower end of British battleship HE Alpha. Fire chance is good, penetration is good. I've seen them get hits of 12, 14k on the best drops in some cases. I've also seen shatters and much lower damage rolls, but they're not fun to be on the receiving end of, I can tell you that. And since you can deploy them from a smoke screen and not have to rely on islands like all the other Dutch cruisers, well, there's that too. I suppose you won't hear any battleships complaining about island camping Dutch cruisers hitting them with airstrikes. Instead, they'll just do it from the safety of a smoke screen. The smoke screen lasts for 90 seconds. You get 3 of them base, but of course you can buff that to 4 with fully packed. And it takes 160 seconds for them to reload, so, they're fairly long duration reload. If you stay in them, though, for the full duration, the reload doesn't feel anywhere near as bad. The thing's also got a repair party. I don't think it's all that great. It restores 174 HP per second for a duration of 28 seconds. And then we do have kind of a special engine boost here, I guess you could say. It gives a 20% speed buff, but it only lasts for 60 seconds. And this ship, to begin with, is not all that fast. We'll run down the rest of the specs now, starting with the hit points. We've got 34,900 on this Firstner build. And I'll show you the build here as this Atlantico goes down to our fire, and I think we get our first kill of the game. It's going to be a little bit of a lull in the gameplay right now. I don't really want to push into the Charlie Cap and go head first into the Harlem, who I think has gone around the islands anyway. Atlantico doesn't quite go down. We'll just have to finish off his 58 remaining hit points with the main battery guns. Anyway, as far as the build, we're running Aiming Systems Mod 1, Propulsion, Concealment, Main Battery Reload, and we've got Firstner at the helm with Makawa and Lemonnier as the inspirations. I think this build is more tuned for some of the other Dutch cruisers, but it works well here, and Firstner may be sort of the best choice for this ship. I'm not entirely sure. I think he's probably better than the new Pirate Commander, just for the risk theory skill, which lowers the cruiser detectability a little bit more, reduces time after firing the main battery guns. That's why Lemonnier is one of the inspirations, but more importantly, it increases the damage of your projectiles as well as fire and flooding damage caused by them while your ship is undetected. And it can be undetected for a lot of the time, thanks in large part to the smoke screen. So what else do we have here? We've already talked about the aircraft and the bombs. The guns, they're destroyer caliber guns. There's 8 of them in 4 double turrets, 120 millimeters in size, so smaller destroyer caliber guns. Yeah, as you can see, the shell arcs are pretty floaty, but on this build, they've got a range of 17.3 km. Hard to know if you can really use that adequately due to the floatiness. If you're shooting at something that's really maneuverable, it might be a little bit difficult to land shells at that kind of range. So I don't know that it's worth building into like I have with the build. Certainly doesn't hurt though. They reload in 4.2 seconds, which is not all that impressive, I suppose. And the HE alpha is relatively low, like you would expect from a destroyer caliber gun, or destroyer sized gun. 1,850 is the maximum HE shell damage, 8% fire chance, which is not all that inspiring, and only 20 millimeters of pen, so really only good for penning DD hulls and superstructure and the like. Has AP shells too, of course. They do a maximum of 2,100, no improved pen angles or anything like that. I haven't found the AP to be all that great, although it does have, I think, really short fuses. Doesn't seem to do fantastic damage against broadside anything. Haven't really tried shooting it at destroyers, though. That might be good. As for the AA, I don't think I need to make any commentary on that subject. There's a CV on the enemy team, and he's going to harass us for the duration of this game. We've already shot down 17 of his planes. If memory serves, by the end of this battle, we're going to have shot down 46 of them. So I'd say this thing can defend itself. It's got good AA, which I think is expected of the Dutch cruisers. Maneuverability is not exactly inspiring. 33 knot top speed without the engine boost. That 20% speed buff can get you up into the high 30 knot range, I suppose, but it just doesn't feel all that fast. It feels sluggish to me no matter what. The rudder shift time is 9 seconds, which is pretty long and is going to prevent us from fully dodging those torpedoes, I think. And then the concealment. Keep in mind I've got Makawa as an inspiration, and the risk theory skill on Firstner buffs the concealment along with the concealment mod. We're at 9 kilometers, which is ridiculous. You can get it lower than that, of course. You could switch out the Lemonnier inspiration I've got and replace it for Swirsky using the same build, and you'd be sub 9 kilometers, which is, you know, approaching very ridiculous cruiser concealment. This thing could almost substitute as a destroyer. If you find yourself in a match absent those, you can probably outspot most things. And then you've got the smoke screen and these airstrikes. You could theoretically use the airstrikes to deal damage and not really have to shoot your main battery guns and be spotted. Speaking of Dutch cruisers with airstrikes, there's the old Harlem that we didn't want to push into, and I'm thinking that was probably the right choice. He's pushed into us. We've hit him with a couple airstrikes and the main battery guns. He goes down for our third kill of the game. We're at 161,000 damage now with a high caliber metal. All that's left is the enemy destroyer, which was lurking around somewhere in front of us. And unfortunately, we turn right into one of his torpedoes, which really reduces our HP to almost nothing. Not ideal. This ship is not very well armored, I should point out. It is coated in a light blue colored 16mm plating everywhere. So even the Fletcher HE can pen the hull in every location, which is why here we need to smoke up so that the Fletcher cannot continue to shoot at us, and also so that the CV does not have a clear line of sight to drop us with his weaponry here. If he hits us once, I think we're toast, and as you can see, the point situation is kind of dire. We're at 445 to 492. We've got one cap, they've got two, but if our efforts are successful, we'll take the second cap, and the CV manages to take out the Fletcher, leaving only the red CV left. I think he's dropping torpedoes into our smoke screen, or maybe those were Fletcher torpedoes. I don't know, but thanks to the smoke screen, which is really the only counter to aircraft carriers because it makes them not be able to see you, we're going to be able to take this capture circle before the CV can stop us. And I think that is all we need to do in order to secure the win conditions here. There's a little over 3 minutes left to go, and we've just overtaken the enemy team on points. Now the smoke screen is going to run out here shortly. Friendly CV is moving into the Charlie cap, and as soon as the smoke screen runs out, that CV is going to be able to sink us. But even if he does, and we lose the points because of that, we should still have enough to win, provided our CV can survive. At least that was my thinking at the time of playing this battle. And this was, to be fair, a pretty close and pretty fun battle to play, despite the presence of the CVs, which of course I don't like. But it's going to work out pretty well for us. We're out of the smoke screen now. It's about to dissipate. CV's been hanging around, thankfully, with his torpedo bombers. Those are at least more possible to dodge than the dive bombers. Here he comes right in front of us, and the idea now is just to drive straight into the CV as quickly as we can, making use of the engine boost. You'll be able to get an idea here that the speed is not exactly inspiring. I don't think we're going to be going as fast as some other cruisers in this game could, but we're at 35 knots now. There's Xarkun. He's going to drop us with the HE bombs, and that's going to be the end of us. We try to drop an airstrike. We misaim it, though, in our sort of desperation to send it out there before we go down, just as Xarkun starts moving forward. So, unfortunately, the airstrike is going to miss. But, you know, if it had hit, it probably would have done pretty good damage to the guy. As for us, 165,000 damage, 17 fires, 3 kills, 59 bomb hits, and 234 main battery hits. This thing is kind of ridiculous. It's certainly capable of pumping out the damage. Kind of fun to play, I would say. But I think potentially a little bit OP. And definitely, I would say, not fun to be on the receiving end of it, especially if it's sitting in a smoke screen where you can't see it and just repeatedly dropping you with the airstrikes. It doesn't even have to shoot its main battery guns. You wouldn't even have that going for you because, you know, when something's in a smoke screen, you can kind of observe the fire of its main battery guns and maybe try to blind fire it. Not going to work too well if it's just using airstrikes. Anyway, friendly Lexington, which has ridiculous HE bomb power, thankfully takes out the Xarkun and allows us to win this game. So thank you to that CV player. I appreciate that because this is a pretty good result with nearly 4,000 base XP, a lot of that inflated by plane kills, but as you can see, this ship is very promising. I don't know if I would recommend it though because I don't know how difficult it's going to be to obtain. Random bundles does not sound like a good thing. Doesn't bode well anyway. Hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.